Okay, here we go. No vaccine, no work. Employers are discussing immunity mandatory, COVID immunity mandate for workers. COVID mandatory, COVID-19 vaccine testing. They're going to make it mandatory. Discussing it, it's going to be mandatory. Public opinion polls from the past couple of weeks appear to show a growing number of Americans are planning to get the coronavirus vaccine, even as Dr. Fauci hinted that the UK's decision to grant emergency approval to Pfizer's Moderna vaccine might have been somewhat rushed. A recent Goldman research note intended for its institutional clients showed as much, citing polling numbers from YouGov. When hospitalizations surging to record levels and California once again heading into lockdown, millions of Americans would probably gladly take the vaccine just to feel a sense of pandemic is over. Even though the duration of that immunity is still not very well understood, and some conspiracy-minded skeptics have raised questions about the headline efficacy numbers. But as the US and UK prepare to start delivering the first jabs in a week, industries are jockeying to try and get their workers designated as essential so they can have faster access to the vaccine. For many, profits are ultimately on the line. That's what it's about. It's about profit, making your bottom line. Forget about the health of the population. Doesn't matter if it's rushed or you really haven't had it properly tested and people have died due to taking the vaccine. You know, hey, we got to make money. Even though many Americans believe it morally reprehensible to fire someone for refusing to take a vaccine, some companies and industry groups are planning to require workers to be vaccinated as a precondition for returning to work. Maybe they think taking such a public stand might help them secure supplies for their vaccines more quickly. Whatever the reason, even for white-collar workers who have been comfortably ensconced in their homes and apartments for the last 9 months, the subtext is pretty clear. No vaccine, no work. Okay. Companies, here's from the Hill. Companies will soon face tough decision about whether to require their employees to get vaccinated for COVID-19 as a condition for returning to work. Employers believe they are on a firm legal ground to mandate vaccinations. That doesn't mean enforcement won't be without its challenges, particularly given the backlash in some parts of the country to mass mandates and smaller groups opposed to vaccinations of any kind. However, many corporations might soon find that their workers, not just blue-collar manufacturers workers, but white-collar workers, office drones too. Either don't share their concerns, can't get their hands on the vaccine, or simply skeptical on the long-term side effects and would prefer to simply wait and see. Fortunately for these workers, U.S. law offers a way to push back. Companies can require it, yes, but they may bump against legal limits. COVID is such an uncharted territory that we are seeing employers acting as we see others acting. More edges in the law are being articulated, said Allison Hoffman, University of Pennsylvania Carey Law School professor. Some business groups are starting to get out in front of the issue by voicing public support for vaccination requirements. Jay Timmons, CEO of the National Association of Manufacturers, stressed that the vaccine is needed to protect essential personnel, including manufacturing workers, and that his group would back member companies implementing vaccination requirements. While there are likely legal concerns with blanket mandates, if any of our members believe that a requirement at their company was the right thing to do, we would certainly support that within the bounds of the law. Because America's future depends on folks rolling up their sleeves in a new way, Timmons told The Hill, the legal limits that employers could run up against are related to the American Disabilities Act and Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which allow for employee vaccination exemptions under certain health and religious reasons. The Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, the EEOC, in March said an employer covered by the ADA and Title VII can't compel of all of its employees to take the vaccine. The commission continues to closely monitor the developments of a COVID-19 vaccine and is actively evaluating how a potential vaccine would interact with employers' obligations under the Americans with Disability Act, the Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, and the other laws the commission enforces. Christina Saad-Nazer, an EEOC spokeswoman, told The Hill. Last week, Joe Biden, who vowed during the debates to make mask mandatory nationwide, switched it up and said he wouldn't make vaccines mandatory for every, just like he wouldn't demand vaccinations to be made mandatory. The UK's Boris Johnson has pledged not to mandate vaccinations, and other world leaders have as well. Lies. But let's back up for a second. Some kind of federal edict mandating vaccinations isn't the only method of coercing the entire population to accept them. Oftentimes, political leaders, for whatever their reason, will opt instead for a more subtle approach. If those who refuse to get the vaccine can't work, can't shop, and are effectively excluded from society, then can we honestly say that the vaccinations are really voluntary? No, they're not. And what does this mean for workers who simply find themselves shut out as the rich and connected shove their way into the front line? The thing is like, this is what they were going to do all along. All right. Too much information has come out about countering, too much information has been out that you can get both sides of the argument when it comes to this COVID-19 vaccine. Okay. And the main issue is money. They put so much work into building, creating this vaccine. Okay. They want their money back. Okay. They want to make money. And they know they can't just, have this actually genuinely voluntary because people have found out information. Too many alternative news sites have exposed them. The corruption within Pfizer, okay? The Moderna vaccine, how it could alter your DNA, how Moderna has only been around for 10 years, and this is their first time creating a vaccine. And the fact that a Catholic priest has died after taking the Moderna vaccine. All right. So they have to force it on you now. They have to. They got to find some way. And that's the only way, by saying they won't, kick down your doors. They'll just take away your right to make money and have food or work. That's what they're doing. There's also information coming out that there's also tiny nanomachines, called luciferase that are in the vaccine. Oh, they're not going to make us do that. They're not going to make us take that vaccine, even though it's like I just told you. But let me show you something else. Here we go. Dun, dun, dun. Look at that. Just look at that. Yes, your boss can fire you if you refuse to get a COVID vaccine. Companies are considering compulsory COVID vaccination requirements as condition of employment. Under the law, an employer can force an employee to get vaccinated, and if they don't, fire them, said Raj Dunn, a Dallas labor and employment attorney. Anti-discrimination laws would enable eligible employers to request an exemption from a company-wide coronavirus vaccine mandate. The country's first COVID vaccine could be authorized for emergency use as soon as Thursday. If Pfizer and BioNTech get the green light, distribution is set to begin within days. But as difficult as the research, development, and distribution stages have been, some experts argue the hardest part of fighting the virus is actually what comes next, convincing the U.S. population to take the vaccine. Roughly 4 in 10 Americans say they would definitely or probably not get a vaccine, according to a recent survey by the Pew Research Center. While this is higher than it was 2 months ago, to achieve herd immunity, experts say that about 70% of the population needs to be vaccinated or have natural antibodies. Employers, however, may not be taking no for an answer. Under the law, an employer can force an employee to get vaccinated, and if they don't take it, fire them. A couple of my corporate clients are leaning toward making the COVID vaccine mandatory, said Raj Dunn, a Dallas labor and employment attorney. His clients range from companies in manufacturing to food and beverage industry that have been battered for months due to the pandemic and government-mandated lockdowns. A vaccine promises employees a return to some form of normal, which is desperately needed as businesses look to recover profits. Mandating the vaccine in the workplace. One of Dunn's clients in the restaurant sector thinks a compulsory inoculation requirement could be a game changer for business. They think it gives them a competitive edge, explained Dunn. They could say to their customers, hey, our restaurant is safe. All of our employees have been vaccinated. It may be in part a PR tactic, but Dunn said it is totally within an employer's right to implement this kind of requirement. Under the law, an employer can force an employee to get vaccinated, and if they don't take it, fire them, said Dunn. Dorit Reese, a professor at the University of California, Hastings College of Law, said that the private businesses have pretty extensive rights. Requiring a vaccine is a health and safety work rule, and employees can do that, said Reese. Take the healthcare system. Dr. Hannah L. Sayed, who oversees a clinical trial for Moderna's vaccine candidate, believes hospitals could eventually make COVID inoculation a condition of employment, similar to how the annual influenza vaccine is required of all medical staff. We all have to demonstrate that we took our flu shot before we go out and see our patients on the wards, said L. Shaley. When we are sick, we cannot deliver vital functions to the community. A few exceptions. There are, however, a few notable exceptions to this kind of blanket requirement. If a workforce is unionized, the collective bargaining agreement may require negotiations with the union before mandating a vaccine. Anti-discrimination laws also provide some protections under the Americans with Disabilities Act. Workers who don't want to be vaccinated for medical reasons are eligible to request an exemption. In this case, an employer would have to provide reasonable accommodations, such as allowing the employee to work remotely. Under the Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, if taking the vaccine is a violation of sincerely held religious belief, they too would potentially be able to opt out. How soon could this happen? When the FDA meets this week, they will decide whether to grant an emergency use authorization or a EUA to Pfizer and BioNTech. It may seem like semantics, but an EUA is not the same as full approval. A emergency use authorization is not licensed, said Reese. There's a legal question as to whether you can mandate an emergency observation. The language in the act is somewhat unclear on that. Mandatory vaccination protocols, therefore, may have to wait until the FDA completes the entire approval process for the Pfizer and BioNTech vaccine. What is clear, however, is that if an employer does choose to mandate the COVID vaccine, a company is not liable should an employee develop side effects from a vaccine. Instead, experts say that any claims would be rooted through workers' compensation programs and treated as a on-the-job inquiry. rewarding vaccination. For now, Dunn is advising his clients to wait 3 months until after a significant number of the population has been vaccinated. In the meantime, some of the businesses Dunn represents are considering incentives instead. There are a few carrots that employers could offer. One option is that if you get the vaccination, you don't have to have your temperature taken every day, or you don't have to wear the same level of PPE, Reese said. There's also talk of offering financial perks to employees who opt into taking the vaccine. Dunn said some of his clients, including a restaurant and one company in the manufacturing sector, are seriously considering giving a cash bonus to employees who get inoculated. People are not that dumb. They may be desperate, but not that dumb. And if they do take it, guess what? And then something happens, sue the medical company, but who knows? Maybe in business. Those who still refuse, rather than firing them, employers could require they complete an educational course that delves into trial efficiency data and the experience of participants. Yasir Batalavi, a 24-year-old living in Boston area, was one of the 30,000 people who joined the trial for the Moderna vaccine. Despite initial concerns about the potential side effects, he said he was no longer worried. I'm not too concerned about the actual long-term effects, said Batalavi. We know from most vaccination trials that any adverse events show up in the first couple of months. Ultimately, the U.S. is still in the midst of an employment crisis. Record unemployment numbers have put immense pressure on the labor market, especially in service-based industries where workers are most at risk. This is a big part of why the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention had advised prioritizing frontline employees in the quick for inoculation. So workers may not have much of a choice if they want to keep a job. Wow. This is what it's like now. This is what it's like now. This is what it's like. We are in a situation where, yeah, CUR foundational Negro, mark of the beast. That's BS. They're not allowed to get you to your medical records. This is the thing, man. These people are desperate. Like I said before, they cannot genuinely make this vaccine voluntary that you could go and take it. They'll lose too much money. They put too much money in a rushed vaccine. Okay. That took like 6 to 10 months to make. All right. When they were supposed to take their time, it takes at least a couple of years. And COVID, has a very high survival rate. That's the thing, depending on your pre-existing condition. If you have a pre-existing condition, there's a chance that you may not survive, may not. I've had COVID, I survived it. It was misery. All right. And these people, I don't know what to tell you, man. They just want depopulation. And that's what it is. That's basically what it is. If you want to come up and talk, you can, if you want. All right. So I'm going to just end this right now. If you like the commentary, please like, share, and subscribe. I also have another channel. It's called Real News, Raw and Uncut. I have 2 of them. You can check out what I got there as well. I'm also on Spreaker.fm. SPREAKER.fm. Okay, you can check them out. I'm also on Captivate. That's another streaming podcast platform. I'm also on Anchor.fm. You can check that out. However, I won't be on Anchor.fm much longer. All right. If you like the commentary, like, share, comment, and subscribe. All right. Later.